Well, hello everyone, my name is Rick Passek, the FlyFish Fanatic, and welcome to my tying bench. Today I'll be tying another dry fly. I don't tie a ton of dry flies, but there's a few that I really like, patterns that I use quite often. I just did the Griffiths Gnat a few days ago, and now I will be tying a Elk Hair Caddis. This is one of my favorite patterns for in the rivers and stuff, even on the lakes. I love this little pattern. Little twist to mine. I mean, it's almost identical to every other Elk Hair Caddis that you can get out there. Just the only little twist is I like using some sparkle dubbing in the body instead of just a flat dubbing. So today I will be using, and I don't know I know what size the hook is, but I don't know what the model number is. I know it's a Mustad hook. It's a straight shank, short shank, dry fly hook, so it's light wire, and it's size 14. So that's what I'll be using for the hook. Obviously for the overwing, Elk Hair. I'll put it up there, yeah, Elk Hair. For the hackle, I'll be using a little bit of ginger, dyed ginger hackle. You can use all kinds of colors. I like the ginger with this one because it goes really well with the dubbing that I'm going to be using, which is the Hends number 35, the orange right there, right there, the sparkle dubbing. So that's the Hends Spectra dubbing, like I said, number 35. Okay, and then I'll be using the Semperfli Nanosilk 12-aught in red. Okay, so I'm just going to put my hook into the vise here. And we'll get started. Like I said, it's a fairly short shanked hook. So I'm going to just, like always with Nanosilks and GSPs, a little bit of wax on your thread to start. I know some of the guys out there like doing just a dab of super glue onto the hook. I don't mind doing that on any kind of wet flies, but I'm not a big fan of doing that on dries. I don't know why. That probably doesn't make any difference, but it's just, one of those things. So get a good bed of thread down. I'm just going to go back and forth one more time. This stuff's so thin it doesn't really bulk up anything. I just want to make sure that it's all tied down nicely so it doesn't come apart. Okay, I'm going to take a piece of my hackle here. I'm going to find one that I think is about the right size. You do want these to stick out a bit because you want this to sit on top of the water, and this is what really helps it. So now I'm just gonna about there. So I was just gauging my size. Like I said, I want it to stick out a bit, so I don't want them too small there. So, and a little hint, and I learned this from Davey McPhail. Just grab your hackle by the tip, and then just stroke all your little fibers back. That'll give you your little tie-in point. Okay, lay that on top, tie that in. Just tight open wraps, not loose, but open wraps, and then you can come back and tighten it right down. Again, this doesn't have to be gorgeous because it's gonna all get covered with dubbing anyway. So, and again, even that, don't worry about it if you get a errant little fiber there. Wax your thread. Take a little bit of the Hends Spectra dubbing. Dub it on. Again, you don't want a huge noodle here. You don't want too much of this material on there, right? So this is a dry fly. You want this to float high. So it doesn't have to be too tight either. I want it to have a couple of little leggies here and there. Just tighten that up a bit. Alrighty. So now I can take my hackle. I'm going to do one full rotation right at the butt. And then I'm going to come forward. I want a little bit of that sticking back there. You see how it's kind of, it doesn't look right, but that's exactly what I want. Then I'm going to leave a mil to 2 mil between each wrap. Oh, don't let go of it. If you do, just grab it again. And then I'm going to tie that off, catch that center stem. 3 times behind it. 3-4 times in front of it. Sorry, my fingers are probably in the way there. Nip that off as close as you can. Sweep everything back. Just going to go over top of that a bit. I just want to have a little bit of a tie-in point for my elk hair. So there, that's what I want. I want those hairs. I want these little hairs sticking past. I like that. I like those little hairs acting almost as a tail. Oh, it's almost like a dabbler style right now, but it's not. So now take my hair stacker. And I apologize ahead of time if my dog starts barking, because he might think it's the front door. So, but I doubt he will. He's getting old and half deaf, so. So now I've cut off a little chunk of my elk hair. Now I'm going to grab it by the tips here, and I'm going to get rid of all this underfur, any underfur that's in there, okay, or any short fibers. So that's it, okay? So now you see how they're uneven, obviously, right? So for those that have never used a hair stacker, it's 2 pieces, right? So you can put it in tips first into the top. Tips first into the top. Just let it drop it in. And then you're just going to bang it on your hand, bang it on the table. Like I said, I don't want to do it on the table because you'll think it's the front door. Half a dozen times or so, whatever. Then you're going to pull it out, pull it apart, and you're going to see all your tips are lined up. So now you just grab your tips. Again, anything that's not perfect, you can just pull out, but you can grab by the tips again. Just make sure there's no underfur, no anything loose. Then I want this about the length of my body. So about there, maybe that one is a little long, so I'm just going to pull that out of there. If I can. Again, my good old man eyesight. Just put it back in. Yeah, there, that's better. So about there is where I'm going to want it. Now, I don't want to cut this off. I'm just going to take that and I'm going to transfer this to my other hand. And I'm going to put one loose wrap. Hopefully you guys can see this. And on the second loose wrap, I'm going to pull tight and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. That's why this Nanosilk is so good, because you can just crank on this stuff. So nice and tight. Now I'm going to take everything back. Everything back. Do a bunch of 10, 15, 20 turns in front here. And I like actually using this red and having a little bit of that reddish or orange, if you've got orange thread, head there. So now I'm going to take my Sally Hansen's, and I'm just going to put a little bit right onto the thread. Okay, not a lot, just a little bit right onto the thread. Get that out of your way. You're going to take your whip finisher, and you're going to stroke all this material back, and you're going to whip finish. 5-6 turn whip finish. You can do it a second time if you want. I don't usually with these, and especially once you've got a head cement of some sort in there. So pull that nice and tight. Remove your tying thread. Now you've got this kind of ugly looking thing. So just get all these fibers that you're the butt ends, right, and bring them forward. Make sure none are caught underneath. Bring them forward, and now you want to cut this off, and you want to cut it. You want to leave a little bit there. So I'm going to cut about there. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to leave about 1/4 inch. So there. Now, you can cut that down tighter if you want, but I like having that little bit of a head, and it's more of a traditional style, having this little bit of a elk hair head. So you can just trim it a bit, just making sure they're all good. And there is your finished elk hair caddis. Now, you could put a little bit more of the elk hair on the top if you wanted. If I was tying anything a little bit bigger, I would have. But that's your Elk Hair Caddis with a little bit of sparkle in there. Now, like I said, you can tie it if you want it to be a bit more natural. Just use more of a natural looking dubbing, an Antron or whatever, something that doesn't have the sparkle in it, right? So whatever you want, you can use. And yeah, an experiment. I tie these with an orange underbody. I tie them with a green underbody. I tie them with a black underbody. But by far the most successful one is this one, the orange, right? And this one, this orange, this Spectra dubbing's got a tiny bit of green in it. It's kind of hard to see. The lighting's not the greatest, but you can see that there's got a little bit of green in there. And then that orange gingery colored hackle, really, really, that actually even helps doing that. You guys can see it even better. So yeah, so that's the Elk Hair Caddis, and just put a little bit of floatant on there and chuck her out and let her sit on the surface. And if it does get sucked under, finish your retrieve. Finish your retrieve with it that half an inch under the surface. A lot of times they'll take it as an emerger as well. So don't just pull it back when it's not floating high anymore. Once it comes back in, it's not floating very high anymore. You can re-gink it or like dry it up and then re-gink it. Or if you like, you can just change your fly. That's up to you, and let this one dry naturally. I usually have that little container of that drying powder. Throw it in, shake it up, and then you can just put a re-gink it, and you're good to go again for 20-30 casts, right? But like I said, let it sink under the surface as well. It really does work well under the surface if it gets wet. But these longer hackle fibers, like you can see that there's some of them, the odd ones are going even past the hook. These longer fibers will let it sit on that surface slime, right? So try not to work this too much when it's sitting on the surface. Maybe give it a little bit of movement here and there, but let this one sit there pretty good. Find your risers and chuck towards them, and take your tension out of your line and just pay attention, because a lot of times these will get absolutely smashed. So, alrighty, if you like that video, please give her a thumbs up. Subscribe to my page if you haven't already, and smash that notification bell so you don't miss any more of my tying videos. And let me know what you guys want to see. I tie everything from steelhead, salmon, rainbow trout, brown trout, tiger trout, even some tropical patterns. So let me know what you want to see, and I'll give her a shot. Tie lines, everyone.